Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Montreal. It's time for the finals. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. We've got Paul Dean versus Maxime Albin, and we are underway.
Oh, no.
The names are switched, it looks.
It's got to be Paul Dean against Kevin Jones.
Yeah,
right?
Kevin Jones is the one on the right-hand side there, not Maxime. Apologies for that. We will get it sorted out quickly.
Right.
In the meantime...
Oh,
Paul Dean. He's got the Attune with Ether, but no green source. And now we're going to see Kevin Jones start to really play quickly because he's like...
And again, Paul Dean kind of cut a couple of green sources from his deck, right, to make room. Although, to be fair, one of those lands isn't a Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, but keeping a one-lander on the draw, it looks like. And,
well, we were talking earlier that game one in the Marvel Mirror tends to not be very interactive. This wasn't quite what we had in mind, but I guess we delivered on our promise of that.
Paul has to have like a Marvel in hand or something, right? I imagine he probably kept a hand where he's got all the energy, and if he just draws a forest, he can basically try to Marvel on turn 4, because that's the only card that's really important game one.
Kevin Jones is going to fire off Whirler Virtuoso. Now, he has not cast a Marvel here on turn 4, and Paul Dean's going to be discarding.
Yeah. I just imagine you're in the finals of the Grand Prix, your opponent just keeps a one-lander.
Yeah, and he just immediately starts discarding cards.
Wow, and Kevin getting aggressive here, making Thopters.
I love it.
Yeah.
And what's going to punish him in game one here, right?
There could be a Sweltering Suns, but if you look at Paul's list, his only way to sweep the board, 2 copies of Chandra Flamecaller, and Paul is not close.
And remember, these players get to look at each other's deck list, so Kevin knows that there's no Sweltering Sun, so he is just dropping the hammer, and that's game. I mean, might as well scoop him up, Paul.
Right.
All right. Well, again, game one, not generally super interactive, though that wasn't quite what we had in mind.
Right.
But game one's over. Kevin Jones is up a game, and he just needs to win one of the next 2 games to be our GP Montreal champion.
It wasn't even a turn 4 Ulamog. It was just turn 3 Rogue Refiner, turn 4 Whirler Virtuoso.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back with more finals action from Montreal right after these messages. And welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix Montreal. We're playing Standard. We had a very quick game number 1. Kevin Jones, well, he just played a few spells. He didn't do anything special, but Paul Dean kept a risky one-lander and was not able to get there. And Kevin just ran him over as Paul really... I mean, he literally only found 1 land for the duration of the game.
It looked like Paul basically had the ideal hand. He had all the energy, and he had the potential to cast a turn 4 Marvel. But so he kind of kept the risky hand on the draw with the Spiral Canal. Really needed to find a green source. He was on the draw. I believe he has 15 sources of green mana in his deck. So given that he has a couple of draws for the Attune with Ether, maybe he wanted to kind of take that chance. And so Paul Dean, again, made his deck so that he is favored game 1. But I think after sideboard, both of the decks just kind of become the same, right? Now you have both decks with a bunch of those sensors, multiple copies of Negate and Dispel, and a bunch of Tireless Trackers. So I imagine both sides are going to be bringing a lot of those cards in. Again, Kevin Jones on the draw, so maybe he wants to kind of prevent Paul from getting out with some kind of an aggressive start. He might consider bringing in some copy of Sweltering Suns on the draw, maybe take him out when you're on the play because you want to be the aggressor. Worst case scenario, you can cycle it. It's a little more of a risk when you bring in something like a Radiant Flames because it has the potential to just sit in your hand.
When it's bad, it's dead.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is a risk for sure.
Yeah.
Well, who's it going to be? Paul Dean or Kevin Jones? Certainly looking like Kevin Jones at this point, being spotted a game effectively.
Right.
It's going to skew those odds
10
in
life
his
looks
favor.
like.
That's brutal.
Yeah. And yeah, so Paul Dean does have the main deck Dissenter's Deliverances to kind of deal with the Resolve Marvel, but Kevin is also bringing in a couple of answers as well. He's got a Manglehorn and also an Appetite for the Unnatural in his sideboard. I know the primary plan is to just prevent it from actually resolving, but sometimes, you know, they protect the Marvel with a Dispel or a Negate, so sometimes it hits the board, and you need to have some outs. And Kevin is going up to second Torrential Gearhulk in the sideboard. I'm not sure if Paul Dean is playing any. Yeah, he's got 0 Torrential Gearhulks in his 75.
You'll remember Kevin Jones, he played at the World Magic Cup for the United States. Paul Dean, he plays for Team Mastrop West, I believe.
Okay.
At the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
I did an interview with him, in fact, just at the last Pro Tour, just to check up on the team and see how things were going.
How are they doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
On the front page, maybe? Probably slightly better than Team Fire, would be my guess, just in the dark.
Oh, no. I'm not saying anything.
Well, we did have dinner after day 1. There were 8 of us. Only one of us made day 2.
This is Team Channel Fireball Fire?
Oh, a combination of Fire and Mutiny. And the one person who made day 2 in that dinner was Raptor, Josh Utter-Layton, and his record was 4-4. The only upside
is... It was a tough tournament for you guys.
The only upside is we did have a member who actually won the Pro Tour.
That's not bad.
He didn't have dinner with us, though. His record was too good for us. He had dinner with Josh Cho.
No, it's his best friend. We'll let him slide there. That's great.
We were at kind of like the kiddie table. Like,
you guys were looking over at him and Josh having dinner. Yeah. Like, hey, guys, good job.
Right.
We're real proud of you.
Yeah. Please carry us to an X6 finish, maybe.
No kidding. Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah. Kevin with a pretty solid hand there. He does have an Ulamog in hand. Not really something you want to be seeing in the opener, but again, we saw kind of the mirror, just the games do kind of go long. It does get to the point where you just start hard casting Ulamogs, and often the first person to cast their Ulamog just wins the game. And Paul, with the 2 copies of the Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, has still got to be feeling okay, but do you take a mulligan here? Oh, no. This is the Multi 6 tank.
This is 6. Yeah, he's already on 6.
Is this a one-lander? He is not happy about this hand.
One-landers have not been kind to him in the finals.
He does get a scry.
He's going to mulligan.
Oh.
Okay, so we know we're going down to 5 is bad.
He's a looker.
I saw he didn't the first time, but this time he's falling apart in front of our eyes. No, but seriously, we know obviously that going down to 5 cards is bad. But
yeah,
it is dependent on the matchup how bad it actually is. I mean, Paul, does he have ways to dig back out of this? Is he going to be under a lot of pressure from Kevin, or will he have some time to kind of, form a game plan here?
Yeah, the thing is, traditionally, Marvel does do a pretty good job of mulliganing, especially in game 1s against decks that don't have a lot of disruption, right? Because honestly, all you need in a Toon, a Puzzle Knot, and a Marvel, and everything else can just be lands, and you'll be totally fine.
Well, his 5 does consist of at least 1 Ulamog, but it looks okay otherwise. It's got a sensor.
Well, he's got blue cards, but a forest and a mountain.
Yes, I know, but look, dude.
Yeah.
You're not shipping that, right?
No, I mean, you have
find
two
a blue
lands.
source, you have a sensor and a gate. Obviously, he's not happy.
This has got to be so rough.
But
though.
Paul's been here before. You know, Paul has a Pro Tour top 8. He made the top 4 at Pro Tour Battle for Zendikar. He's been under the lights.
Right.
He's felt the pressure. He knows what he needs to do. And, I mean, I'm not going to say he's happy about it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a non-blue source going down to the bottom. Pretty miserable stuff here for Paul Dean. He's just going to say Forrest go. Let's see what Kevin has, though, because... Okay, well, it's a good start for Kevin. He's got an attuned either.
Well, Kevin's got 7 cards in hand. So
that's true. That's true. But it is interesting because, you know, I've had those situations where I felt demoralized after having mulligan to 5.
Right.
And only to realize that my opponent, who kept 7, kept a bad 7, right? Like they were missing a color, or they go second land and they go, and you're like, oh, you know, you get that little twinge like, oh, do I have a chance?
Yeah, that's definitely happened where you see your opponent mulliganing, they're a bit dejected, and you're like, okay, maybe I'll keep this hand because he's mulliganing, and then you kind of don't get there because you kept like a 2-lander, for example.
Exactly.
But Kevin's hand, I mean, it's got plenty of mana. He does have an Ulamog as well, so, you know, those kind of are effectively mulligans in the early game.
This needs to be a blue source here for Paul. Oh.
Yeah.
He drew a Rogue Refiner the turn prior, and now I mean, look, if he finds a blue source, he might be able to make it work.
Yeah, and Kevin's got Rogue Refiner, and it looks like a Glimmer of Genius as well in his hand. So
well,
this is just...
We had a good run.
This might just be an end.
Wow. Just
Paul's not even...
Paul. Man,
has he even cast a spell?
No, you got to feel he hasn't cast a spell.
He might not.
In the finals.
He might lose the finals without casting a single spell.
You got to feel for Paul here. This is just a beating, man.
Not like this. Kevin
Jones, mercifully quick here.
He might just run out the main phase Glimmer because Paul might draw a blue source.
Yeah, it's another uncastable spell for Dean.
Wow.
And this one is falling apart quickly for our Canadian hero here. The American Invader looks cool and comfortable as he casts a Glimmer of Genius against an opponent who has yet to cast a spell against him in the finals.
I mean, these decks are pretty good when you're playing Solitaire, so...
Yeah, these decks are very, you know... They can certainly drop the hammer on you.
Yeah. Kevin is just
we could just see it here
at this point.
All right, well, he's going to attack first, but I mean, if he has the Aetherworks Marvel,
he might just have a tracker here. He just goes tracker land maybe. Oh no, I see a Rogue Refiner. I don't know if he has a tracker though.
Another Rogue Refiner would be just fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's up to what, 9 energy now?
Yeah. Just all of the energy.
As I say, that one I don't think goes to 9. Draw a card. And he's leaving up Negate and Harness Lightning. He's got 6 power on the battlefield, and you have to feel like
he's discarding.
He's going to discard. This is the turn. If he doesn't hit a blue source here, I think the tournament's over.
Yeah, I think even if he hits a blue source, it's likely too late.
I agree. But I'm saying if he didn't, it's just game.
Right.
He did hit an Ether Hub, though, so that gives him a Rogue Refiner to block.
Right.
Now, it's going to get Harness Lightning, but still, it gives him one to block.
And it gives him energy, so the Ether Hub still produces blue mana.
And he drew an island.
All right.
I'm not really as excited as I sounded. He's still so far behind here.
Yeah.
He's taking 6 no matter what. And, of course, Kevin can also just draw an Aetherworks Marvel at any point here.
Right. And Kevin even has the negate backup if Paul somehow manages to get 6 energy and draw a Marvel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Kevin Jones is going to win this thing.
Ooh, okay. So Paul has got to be kind of happy that Kevin ran out a puzzle knot because that's just not a threat.
It's about the best case scenario for Paul. But also Kevin's going to pass the turn with 4 mana up.
Right.
And Paul knows that whatever he does is going to be countered or dealt with on some level.
What do we have?
A Tireless Tracker.
Okay. Well, that's not bad.
Yeah. He already had one, but...
He's going to play one, follow it up with a land, and then he gets to cycle a Sensor.
Yeah.
And Kevin's going to fire off another Harness Lightning here.
Indeed.
Get Paul down to 2. So...
That resolves. Go up to 100 energy.
Roughly, yes. Yeah, Kevin basically needs to just like draw blanks for...
There's an Aetherworks Marvel, Paul.
or an Aetherworks Marvel. Wow.
I don't know that he needs it. He's got Paul Dean down to 2, but hey, you might as well run it. He could seal the deal right here.
And it looks like he's just opting to kind of use Marvel as a potential just additional counterspell here. either another negate. He could have looked to just find a Chandra and possibly end the game right away.
But now he has 2 counter spells as backup.
Yeah, potentially. And there's just nothing Paul can do.
Nothing that poor Paul Dean can do. He did finally find a blue mana source, but it was way too late. And Kevin Jones is a turn or 2 away from sealing up a GP trophy. All that money, some nice pro points for Kevin. Got that qualification again.
Yeah. This is not, this is not really what you kind of want to see heading into the finals.
It's not. Yeah, it's disappointing when it ends up like this for sure. For both players, I'm sure. I mean, Kevin will take it, but this wasn't exactly scintillating magic from his perspective either. Even though, he's running over Paul here. Cycle sensor.
Maybe a Sweltering Suns. Maybe he's got a Radiant Flames that he
needs balance to get out of this.
Balance.
Yeah. He can cast it.
He could also flip the table. Just restart the game somehow.
Yeah, Kevin's trying to be polite here. He says, look, I have the negate.
Yep.
And Paul says, yep, that in fact does it. And Kevin Jones is your GP Montreal champion. Congratulations to you. It was a Marvel mirror, but ultimately it came down to lands for both players. And Kevin hit his land drops. Paul Dean was not able to. And we've got our champion. That's going to do it for the finals here from Grand Prix Montreal. Hey there, welcome back to the booth here at Grand Prix Montreal. We've got a champion. It's Kevin Jones from the United States, defeating Paul Dean in 2 swift games in the finals. Paul, you're the color commentator. I don't envy you here, but what are the takeaways from the finals? There wasn't much there, was there?
Yeah, we didn't really get to see much Magic being played. I think, again, at the end of the day, if you want to play Marvel, which I believe this is clearly the best deck as long as it's legal in Standard, I think this is the best deck to play. I think this is the direction you want to take this deck. Kevin Jones and Paul Dean opting not to play Servant of the Conduit and multiple sensors, just so you're ready for the mirror. And then you might even go one step further, maybe play more negates in the main, because this deck is just that good. Paul didn't really get to showcase all the innovations that he made, but look, he made it to the finals of the Grand Prix. He had to beat a lot of Marvel mirrors.
And he came prepared for that matchup.
Absolutely. Multiple copies of Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. Really nice innovation out of Paul. To, again, be, we didn't see it here, but in the post-board games, we saw a ton of that this weekend. And in the post-board games, often the games go really, really long, right? Because Marvels just don't exist, don't resolve on turn 4, right? And again, oftentimes it gets to the point where the first person to hard cast Ulamog wins, and Shrine of the Forsaken Gods kind of gives you that step up.
Are zombies? I was going to say, are zombies dead? I guess they're undead. Is the zombie deck dead?
I think so. I think it's one of those. I think it's a powerful deck, and it's got like nice synergies going for it. But the Marvel decks adjusted, right? As long as the Marvel decks have adjusted and are playing all these sweepers, playing sweepers just buys you so much time against these zombie decks. And the zombie decks can't really slow roll their threats, right?
Yeah.
We talk about how decks like Mardu vehicles, sweepers aren't very effective against them because they have the vehicles, they have the planeswalkers and what have you. When you're playing the zombie deck, you don't have any of those things. All you can do is just play out your zombies. Potentially maybe playing white, maybe main deck Gideon, planeswalkers, just to make it so that these Sweltering Suns aren't quite as effective against you could help. But again, I think if more people kind of tune their Marvel decks so that they're like, okay, I think zombies have been hated out. We're just going to play all counter spells for the mirror. Then maybe there's a place in the metagame for zombies to kind of get back in. But right now, if everybody's still kind of on a bunch of Sweltering Suns and Chandras, it's just a really hostile environment for zombies.
Yeah, it does seem to be the case for sure. We're lining up an interview with Kevin, by the way. We're going to have a quick word with Kevin. It looks like he's right over there. All right, let's get him in. Paul, thank you. I'm going to dismiss you here. And we'll get Kevin in here for a quick interview. Hey, Kevin, sit here. Go ahead and throw that on for me. There you go. Hey, Kevin. Congratulations.
How's it going?
You
Thank
are
you.
our champion. Let's make sure we get your big trophy. There you go. Looking good. And it's weird. Normally, when we get to this point, I like to ask the players about how the finals went, how it went down. But yours went pretty quickly.
It was just like he kept, mathematically correct key. I think he had a tune in the first hand.
He did.
And he was on 5 in the second hand, so it's just like...
Yeah. For you, your job was easy there, right?
That it wasn't super interesting, because I know he's a very good player and all that.
Yeah.
That he was platinum last year, and that I think he said if he had won our match, he would have been locked for gold for next year or whatever.
Okay.
So
hey, they just announced you over the loudspeaker.
That's awesome. I was waiting for it, and then I can't hear anything.
And now it's here because I got the headset on you. Yeah, I actually mentioned that on the air. I know that you would have preferred to play like a sweet interactive game rather than the, okay, here's some spells, I guess I won. But hey, you'll take it, right?
Yeah,
it's still a GP trophy. You earned it.
I've never top 8'd a GP before, and
I've got right for the trophy.
A couple SCG trophies, and this is a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. So I'm definitely happy about it. It's insane. It's like I'm gonna wake up like tomorrow at like noon or something and be like, whoa.
And this thing's going to be sitting right next to the bed, right? Yeah, that's great.
I'm trying not to I'm super excited, so I'm trying not to Martin Mueller it and curse or anything.
We appreciate that.
Yeah! or whatever, but...
What about the deck? I had a chat with Dan Ward a little while ago. He said he was bugging you about playing this deck for a while, and you play a little bit of a different version.
So he's... Basically what Dan does is he says that a very broad idea is right, and then when a narrow application of said broad idea is right, then he takes all the credit for it. So if he says that marveling into Emrakul with Vessel of Nascency or whatever people were doing last fall, he's like, Marvel's great. And that was true then.
Sure.
But it wasn't true for the 4 months between then and now or whatever. And now I'm like, he's like, oh, well, you're finally playing the best deck. And I'm like, well, it was not the best deck when you were telling me to play it, But now it certainly is, man. And it just fits my style well. It's like...
How would you describe your style?
I like flexible blue decks. So I like a lot of aggro control decks, like the old Jeskai deck, the Mana Strider deck.
And you're like a big Delver guy, right?
I won Legacy Champs with Delver.
Yeah.
That deck was more a function of Delver being completely broken, like Treasure Cruise just being really unfair.
Right, of course.
More than anything else. But I've played a lot of Delver in Legacy. I played Stoneblade in Legacy. Played a lot of Splinter Twin in Modern. Grixis Delver in Modern. You guys saw me stumble through the World Cup with that.
The World Magic Cup. I remember.
That.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like flexible blue decks. I like to be able to switch roles post board, or even in game you can be an aggro deck for the beginning of or a tempo deck. Beating down with creatures, or then a combo deck.
Did, by the way, in the finals.
Well, yeah, it's nice that. It's not a full combo deck where if you hit your fail rate and you just can't do anything, then it doesn't matter how hamstrung they are. You just play 3 mana 3/2s that cantrip and attack them until they're dead.
Yeah, we saw that happen at the Pro Tour last weekend. People had all their Ulamogs and all their Chandras stripped away by Lost Legacy, and they're just like, I'm going to attack you with these 3/2s or whatever, and they can just win that way.
Yeah, I really like combo decks that aren't priced into having to combo. I really love Splinter Twin for that reason. 4-color Saheeli or Jeskai Saheeli for that reason. It's I like to use untapped mana, to put people in tough spots or what have you, and just being able to glimmer when they're afraid of you marveling or casting a Gear Hulk when they thought you were going to Saheeli with the old Jeskai deck. Just all that stuff that's right up my alley.
That's what you like.
I like this kind of deck.
So this is going to qualify you
for Japan.
Yeah. So congratulations. How sweet is that?
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know who you're going to test with? Have you, I know it's a little early, but do you have a default set of people that you're like, hey guys, guess who's qualified?
I will definitely I don't know.
You gonna approach Team Musashi or?
Oh, I would be honored. I think there's a bit of a language barrier, unfortunately.
Fair.
I'm going to grovel at Jerry's feet and see if he'll help me or something. I don't know if I'm big time enough for those guys yet, but some of the guys on Metagame Gurus who I was on that team last year, some of those guys are qualified for Kyoto. Ben's qualified, and Andrew Jessup is qualified. So maybe I'll work with them again, like a blast from the past. I don't know.
Well, congratulations, Kevin.
Thank you.
Are our champion.
It's really cool.
Really awesome that you won. Just hang out with me for just 1 second here, and hold your trophy up for him. That is going to do it for our coverage here from Grand Prix Montreal. We want to say thank you to Gamekeeper and everybody here who helps make these tournaments go, the staff and the judges. Without them, these tournaments do not fly, and we really want to make sure that we recognize them. And that is it for us. So for Brian David Marshall, Rich Hagan, for Jacob Van Lunen, Paul Cheon, I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. We'll see you in a couple of weeks from GP Omaha. See ya. Hey, nice job, man.
Thank you.